Hi everyone, Vicky here, and welcome to Foods That Heal interview series, where we explore the power of food and show you how to eat in order to live a healthier and longer life. So today we're talking about chronic disease prevention, and I have the pleasure to have with me specialist in preventative medicine, Dr. David Katz. So hi, Dr. Katz.
Hi, Vicky. Good to be
How are
with you.
you?
I'm sweaty. I'm practicing what I preach. I'm working from a home office. I'm just off my elliptical, so apologies for for the gleam, but
It's
it's for
okay.
a worthy cause.
It's okay. It's for a good cause, as you said. So, Dr. Katz is the founding director of Yale University's Yale Griffin Prevention Research Center. He is the immediate past president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, and he is the founder and president of the True Health Initiative. Dr. Kat was named one of the nation's top nutrition expert for 2017 and 2018 by the dietspotlight.com. He has authored roughly 200 peer-reviewed publication and many hundreds of health columns, both online and in print. And he is recognized globally for his expertise in nutrition, weight management, and chronic disease prevention. So once again, thank you for being here. And I want to talk about the role of True Health Initiative in chronic disease prevention. So first of all, what is True Health Initiative and what's the purpose?
Vicky, I've been working in public health and disease prevention for the better part of 30 years now. I trained in internal medicine, went on to train in preventive medicine, and have really devoted my career and my life to doing all I can to prevent needless suffering, to keeping healthy people well, to adding years to life and life to years, and ideally, while doing that, using the power of lifestyle as medicine to help the planet too, because generally what's really best for people is also best for the environment, sustainability of the planet, all of that.
Right.
But the simple reality is we're losing the war. You look around, we have globally ever more obesity in ever more places. We
Mhm.
have ever more chronic disease at ever younger age. And of course, we are busily destroying the planet too. So we're losing the war. And, honest people, no matter how hard they're working, have to be able to admit when their methods are not working. And I think one of the main reasons our methods in modern public health are not working is because the environment around us has changed quite radically.
Mm.
So when I started my career, there was no internet. The internet changed everything. It
Yes.
changed everything for me as a clinician taking care of patients. It used to be back in the old days, patients would come in to see the doctor and they didn't really know anything. The doctor was the expert. The doctor was the expert and the patient didn't know, and the doctor would provide expert advice and the patient would agree or disagree, but they didn't come in knowing the answer. Now, these 30 years later, everybody knows everything,
Mm-hmm.
but most of it's wrong. And so it's much harder work in clinical care to unteach stuff before you can teach than it ever was to just teach from the ground up. So we have exactly the same problem in public health with the endless barrage of news, both real and fake, with the advent of the blogosphere so that essentially everyone can broadcast their opinion to the world at large. There's no editorial filter. You don't need to be an expert. You don't need to have any credentials or any true knowledge. All you need is an opinion and internet access. The real messages about health and the opportunity, the luminous opportunity in front of all of us to add years to our lives and life to our years is being squandered. And so I decided we have to invent new methods, and the True Health Initiative represents that thinking. So I thought we will never make progress if everything about nutrition and health is he said, she said. Low
Mm-hmm.
fat, low carb, this study, that study, these headlines, those headlines, the grapefruit diet, the pickle juice diet, the cabbage soup diet, the Atkins diet, the keto diet. I mean, round and round and round in circles we go, getting fatter and sicker all the time. And because I have worked in this space all around the world for years, my impression was that genuine experts, in public health, preventive medicine, diet, lifestyle, sustainability. Genuine experts all did pretty much the same things. When it's time to have dinner, experts all around the world, from vegan to paleo, eat more like one another than any of them eats anything like the typical American. I knew that because I know them and I've had dinner with them. But I didn't think the public knew that. And I thought the public deserved to know that. So I tested this hypothesis by starting to invite my most illustrious colleagues to join this coalition of experts and to stand up and be counted in public and say, I agree with my colleagues about the fundamental truths of a health promoting diet. And by the way, I don't want to keep that a secret. The fundamental truths of a health promoting diet: you should mostly eat vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds, and when you're thirsty, drink plain water. Period. End of story. Mic drop. I mean, it's just, it's not the magical mystery tour. It's really simple. Minimally processed, wholesome foods in sensible assemblies. It can be high fat or low fat. It doesn't matter. It can be Mediterranean or Asian. It doesn't matter. It can include or exclude dairy. It doesn't really matter. If it's mostly minimally processed or unprocessed vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds, and plain water when you're thirsty, you cannot go too far wrong. Really, that's it. So experts around the world massively agree, and the amount of scientific evidence in support of that theme is incredible. So the True Health Initiative, are you familiar with the kid story Horton Hears a Who by Dr. Seuss?
No.
All right. Well, I imagine some listening are, but it's a story about an elephant who can hear the voices of these tiny little people living on a dust speck because he's got great big elephant ears, but no one else can hear them.
Okay.
Anyway, the conclusion of the story is this dust speck is about to be dropped into a boiling vat of oil because none of the other animals believe Horton's hearing anything. And then these little creatures called Who's all get together and all yell at exactly the same moment, "We are here." And because they pool their voices, they are heard and they're saved. I said, well, we need to do that in public health, but we don't need to say "we are here." What we need to say is "we agree." All around the world, across disciplines and across different passions. I'm vegan, I'm paleo, I'm Mediterranean. We need to let the public know we actually agree about the fundamentals of a health promoting diet and lifestyle. And it worked. The Council of Directors of the True Health Initiative is a who's who in public health. We have more than 450 experts from more than 40 countries. Wow. We have 3 former Surgeons General of the United States. We have chairs of nutrition departments at Ivy League universities. We have deans of nutrition schools. We have CEOs of healthcare organizations like the famous Cleveland Clinic. We have famous chefs like Alice Waters and Marcus Samuelsson. We have famous nutrition writers like Mark Bittman. We have famous journalists like Sanjay Gupta. And we have experts ranging from the world's leading authorities on the vegan diet to the world's leading authorities on the paleo diet saying we agree much more than we disagree. And we do pretty much the same things for ourselves and our families. Hugely powerful. What we're working to do now is turn this incredible assembly of person power into a global communication campaign, because we would like the average person to know that we're not confused about the basic care and feeding of Homo sapiens. The science is clear, common sense is clear, and there is a global consensus among experts. And to close out, you asked me one question, I'm giving you a long answer, Vicki.
That's
but
okay.
To close this out, here's why this matters so much. We got to the moon. We put footprints and a flag on the moon, and I would argue we got to the moon for 3 reasons. 1, we wanted to go. 2, we are an ingenious and relentless species. And 3, we knew where to find the dang thing. Right? There was no argument about, I think it's over there, I think it's, everybody agreed.
Yeah, it was obvious.
Yeah, NASA knows where the moon is, so let's go. So we went. It's incredible. Well, I would argue that much the same pertains to the proposition of lifestyle as medicine, to adding years to lives and life to years all around the globe, to saving the environment. Yeah, I think we want to go. I think every loving parent and grandparent would like a world where there's 80% less chronic disease and premature death, to bequeath that world to our children. That's what lifestyle could do, 80% less chronic disease and premature death. When we convened the True Health Initiative, it's because we already had the science to do that. Imagine a world with 80% less heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, dementia, all of that. We know how to do it. So I think we want to go. we're still an ingenious and relentless species. The only issue has been we haven't agreed on where there is. And I would argue you cannot ever get there from here if you don't first agree that you know where there is. The True Health Initiative exists to help the world know that we know where there is. And so then we can, I think, get down to the business of getting there from here.
And would you say that's why it seems like life as medicine is so still unknown of general public and underused by traditional medicine? Because I take, for example, when I started this project of foods that heal, it's because my mom is suffering from a neurodegenerative disease, and the doctors around her never considered food to help her with her disease. And it just struck me. And when I was talking to people around me, they had no idea that that was a possibility. So I thought to myself, but it's basic. So why don't people know about this? And why don't traditional medicine use this?
So the answer is the question's perfectly good. I'm sorry about your mom. I hope she's doing well. And I'm glad you're doing this to help pay it forward. But the answer is complicated. In some ways, the answer is money, right? There's a massive industry that generates very high profits from very crummy foods. So, most of the food in the modern American food supply is junk. It's inexpensive to make. It can be sold at high profit. If you can get away with doing that, why wouldn't you? And then when you're peddling junk food to people, you create a lot of unnecessary disease, and then people need to take drugs. And there's another massively profitable industry, big pharma. So big food makes money by making people sick. Big pharma makes money by treating all the sick people, and round we go. So the status quo is making some industries very rich. And those profiting from the status quo generally don't want it to change. The other thing is the status quo whispers in your ear all the time. You just kind of accept that it's the way things are supposed to be. For example, the recent Olympic Games, there were 3 premier sponsors of the Olympic game coverage here in the United States: Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Dunkin' Donuts. So our culture is essentially whispering in our ear, here are the world's most elite athletes. Here's the stuff everybody should be eating. They go together. It's all fine. Everybody runs on Dunkin'. Just eat donuts.
But it's not.
Of course it's not true. It's nonsense. But our culture makes it so normal, makes it so much the background noise, we don't even notice the problem with it. The other part of the answer really requires looking back across the long sweep of human history. Throughout most of human history, calories were relatively scarce and hard to get, and physical activity was unavoidable. It didn't require gym membership or specialized footwear. It was called survival, and everybody just did it every day. We have devised a modern world where physical activity is scarce and hard to get, and calories are unavoidable. In other words, we overshot. So we are ingenious. We wanted to do less physical work because it was too taxing. So we invented technology. Well, we eventually got so good at inventing technology, now we don't use our muscles enough.
Right.
And we used to have to struggle to get enough to eat. And some people still do, of course, but in the modern world, most people have too much. And so we were struggling to get enough to eat and to have food every day and for it to be tasty and stable and safe. So we invented technologies to produce ever more food. And again, we overshot. It wasn't that we were intending to do any harm. We were just a little too ingenious for our own good. So then we produced food that was too abundant, too tasty, too varied, too constant. And now we have epidemic obesity to show for it. So it's a combination of some of what I would consider genuinely nefarious and pernicious motives, the willingness of big corporations to profit at the expense of public health. I call them out. Yes, it's true. No question about it. And there's brilliant writing on the topic. Michael Moss is a Pulitzer Prize-winning investigative journalist. He wrote a New York Times Magazine cover story entitled The Extraordinary Science of Addictive Junk Food. Wow. And the story he tells is that every big food company hires teams of PhDs, gives them functional MRI machines, and marching orders to design foods the average person can't stop eating. So we're talking about portion control, making good choices, and the food supply is literally booby-trapped to be addictive. Is that fair? No, it's absurd. But again, where is the outrage, right? Why isn't every parent and grandparent outraged, literally outraged about that? Because our culture says, no, junk food's it's a food group. It's fine. Everybody should eat junk. It's okay. No, it's wrong. You don't want to build the growing body of a child out of junk, for crying out loud. So again, it's almost as if we're all in some sort of a trance. Our culture has put us in a trance. So there's the cultural norm that has a powerful influence. There is predatory profiteering by these big corporations. Big food loves the status quo. Big pharma loves the status quo. And then there's the fact that we are all products of this long historical experience. And I'm talking not just about recorded history, but evolutionary history. You go back millions of years. The struggle to get food was always part of who we are. The requirement for physical activity was always part of who we are. These problems of having too much food and too little exercise, these are modern problems. We just invented those. But we're now struggling to deal with the consequences of our own excessive success. We went too far.
Right.
We're trying to turn the Titanic around, and people like you are helping. So I thank you for that. But the idea that food is medicine isn't new. Hippocrates said it, right? So you can go back thousands of years. People knew this, but we have completely neglected it in modern society. And you're absolutely right. It's time to go back to a better future.
Right. And True Health Initiative is based on years of research in that domain that support.
Well, yeah, so we've got it. When people go to the website, truehealthinitiative.org, and I'd love for everybody listening to check out the website. You can sign up for our monthly newsletters and become a member. Add your voice to the chorus, because in unity there is strength. But if you click on the science link on our homepage, we have a bibliography. So we've archived scientific studies, 600 papers there. And this was just a sampling. And they all say the same thing. So there's studies of vegan diets or vegetarian diets or paleo diets or Mediterranean diets, studies of individual food, studies of meat, studies of dairy. They're randomized trials, long-term observational studies. But you add it all together, which is what really matters. And what it says is, every time diets are good for human beings, it's because they are made up of minimally processed foods, mostly vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, lentils, nuts, and seeds. And when you're thirsty, drink plain water. You want to have some red wine, have some red wine, but no Coca-Cola. And so
it's sugary drinks.
It's really simple. Yeah, all of that. So there's just no debate. So we pretend like, we have to decide: is it low fat, is it low carb? Mostly what we do is we just keep inventing new ways to eat badly, and unfortunately the American public seems committed to exploring them all. But the consequences are dire. People literally are losing years from lives, life from years, unnecessarily. It goes on year after year. And it is the bane of my career. I think I have to confess, Vicki, I'm struggling somewhat desperately to make a positive difference before I run out of energy. I'm not going to run out of energy anytime soon, I'm pleased to say. And I do see new opportunities. But I've been at this a long time, and it's pretty frustrating to know that there is a clear truth, there is a there. We should be focused on getting there from here. And all we ever seem inclined to do is ask, what is the fad diet this week? And we try that, and we get fatter and sicker, and we abandon it and ask, what's the new fad diet? And we try that and get fatter and sicker, and that has got to stop. So, yes, big food is to blame, and yes, big pharma is to blame, and yes, big medicine is to blame, and yes, our culture at large is to blame, and yes, all of the inertia that is born of the human evolutionary experience is to blame. But at the end of it all, to some extent, I think we have to look one another in the eyes and say, we have met the enemy, and it is us too. In our gullible multitudes. When are we going to grow up and accept the fact that eating well means eating well? Wholesome foods and sensible combinations. And if we are gullible enough to buy nonsense, there are certainly going to be people out there willing to sell it to us.
Right. And it's funny because my son is 18 months and he never touched juice. He only drinks water. And people look at me like, are you nuts? Like, why don't you give him juice? And I'm like, juice, it's not necessary. It's just liquid sugar. He doesn't need liquid sugar. I'm giving him fruits. I'm giving him, but not.
So you're absolutely right. And I have 5 children. They're all grown now. So nobody's 18 months. My youngest is 18 years,
Okay.
just about to turn 19. But a quick story about my kids when they were little. So I think we had 3 out of the 5 of them at a birthday party, a friend's birthday party. This is, of course, many, many years ago. And there was the inevitable birthday cake, with frilly icing. From a nutritionist perspective, it looked like a nightmare, but it made my kids' eyes glow. I mean, just wow. My wife and I looked at one another and we kind of silently agreed we weren't going to be the food police, and if kids wanted to get in line for a birthday cake, they could certainly have birthday cake. So they did. They got in line, they got their little plates and their red plastic forks, and they waited their turn and they got their slice, and their eyes were all aglow. And all 3 of them took one bite, and then their faces wrinkled up, and we knew what was going on. So we pointed to the trash bin. They all ran over and spit it out. And then we talked about it, and they said it was terrible. I mean, it was so sweet. They and these were little kids. It was so different from what they were used to. They hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's not just a question of kids don't need all that sugar. And you're right, they don't need juice. What I think most people overlook is that we may think some things taste good and some things don't. It's not true. We like what we know. We like what's familiar. Right. There are limits to it, but by and large, the single most potent determinant of dietary preference is familiarity. So we say familiarity breeds contempt. Not among taste buds, it doesn't. Familiarity breeds preference among taste buds. So if you are used to a wholesome diet, you prefer a wholesome diet. And if you're not used to a wholesome diet, you can get used to a wholesome diet, and so can your kids. I call this taste bud rehab, but you can little by little improve the choices you make. Better bread, better cereal, better yogurt, better salad dressing, better pasta sauce, less sugar, less salt, less chemicals. And each incremental step you make exposes you to less of that junk and exposes you to more wholesome flavors. And it isn't too long before you prefer the wholesome flavors and you don't like the junk anymore.
Yes.
So, I imagine your son, is going to prefer food less sweet because he wasn't exposed to unnecessary amounts of sugar as a little guy.
Yeah, my son give him an avocado and then you make
He's happy. Me too, by the way. Feel free to give me an avocado. Love avocados.
So to come back to the True Health Initiative, you mentioned on the website the 6 core principles that the True Health Initiative is based on. So what are those principles?
I refer to them, these domains, as feet, forks, fingers, sleep, stress, and love. And so what I mean, feet is physical activity, forks is dietary patterns. We've been talking about that preferentially because that's the area where people are most confused. Yes. Fingers don't hold cigarettes and don't hold excesses of alcohol, so that refers to toxins. Sleep, we need enough. Stress, we don't need too much. No. And love, we need strong, good, healthy social interactions. The science of lifestyle as medicine overwhelmingly points again and again and again to these 6 domains. And in each of them, there's very strong evidence, and there is global consensus among experts about how important they are and what they can do and how they all can help eliminate 80% of the risk for premature death and chronic disease. I mean, imagine if there was a pill you could take once a day that was perfectly safe, no side effects, inexpensive. You could share it with your whole family. And as long as you took it once daily, you'd be 80% less likely to ever develop heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, dementia, all the bad stuff. I mean, everybody would be in line to get a prescription.
Right.
There is no such pill. Lifestyle is exactly that medicine. And the comprehensive prescription isn't just diet. It's feet, forks, fingers, sleep, stress, and love. It's those 6 things. So the True Health Initiative is committed to all of them. We do tend to talk a lot about diet, not because it's the only one that matters. They all matter, but because it's the area where people are the most confused.
Right. So according to you, what's the most harmful food that people consume in today's society?
Propaganda.
Propaganda.
Yeah. I mean, again, we could debate, is sugar worse than saturated fat, or, is sodium as bad as people say? Again, I've written a number of columns where I've looked at sugar, saturated fat, and said, honestly, stupidity is more harmful to us than either of them. The fact that we're willing to just cut sugar and eat a bad diet that's low in sugar, and then just cut saturated fat and eat a diet that's low in fat but bad for us, again, we have proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that focusing or fixating on any one nutrient or food simply ushers in the era of a whole new way of eating badly. So honestly, what's the single worst thing for us in the food supply is propaganda, is the willingness to be talked into nonsense. Step back, look at the big picture, focus on wholesome foods and sensible assemblies. And by the way, let's be perfectly clear, this is not about suffering. You can love the food that loves you back. Along with the True Health Initiative site, I would recommend to people my wife's brilliant, beautiful recipe website, Cuisinicity.com. It's like Cuisine City, but with an I in the middle. Cuisinicity.com. Everything's free. It's what we eat here. My wife is a French foodie. It's fantastic food, but it's wonderfully nutritious. It's family friendly. It's convenient. And the tagline at Cuisinicity is, love the food that loves you back. We can do that for sure. And so really worse for us than any single nutrient, any single ingredient, any single food is the constant barrage of distracting nonsense.
Right.
So don't swallow the propaganda.
Right. And your wife is French?
She's French, yes. She was actually born in North Africa. And then at 2 years old, family moved across the Mediterranean. So she, we talk about the Mediterranean diet. She's actually a child of both sides of the Mediterranean Sea. Born in North Africa, raised in southern France. So a French Mediterranean diet. And then, that's sort of the foundation for the way we eat, but then significantly upgraded in all kinds of ways because I am an extremely fussy nutrition guy. So Cuisinicity really represents the absolute best of nutrition, plus this wonderful, delicious culinary tradition. So it's really great. And again, we have 5 kids. We've raised them eating this way. So it's family tested.
Awesome. And I'm French too. So
are you?
Yes.
No, je savais pas.
Oui. So, Dr. Katz, we're coming to the end of the interview, but before I let you go, do you have one last piece of advice for the listener today?
Yeah, the thing that I just mentioned at the very end here, Vicki, is family. Yeah. And I think a great place to end is on that word, that notion, and that sort of fundamental principle in the way we all lead our lives. People go on diets alone, but we live it together. Think of diet and lifestyle that way. Think of it not as dieting. Think of it as living. And think of doing this with the people you love, for the people you love. Remember that in unity there is strength. Also remember that a group of us has something one of us can never have, and that's culture. So our culture at large may run on Dunkin', but our family can have a culture that's all about the principles of living well, taking care of one another. We all want the people we love to live long and prosper with vitality. If we do it with them, the likelihood is they have a much better chance, and we benefit as well. So everything we've been talking about sort of comes together. The ribbon around it all is do this as a family.
That's a wonderful advice, and it's truly important, and it's making a difference when you have people around you and that you love and loves you, that helps you go through this and makes the change necessary to be healthy.
For sure.
Thank you so much. And where can we find more information about the True Health Initiative, and how can we get involved?
Sure. Well, again, thank you for having me. I do wish I had known in advance that I should have shaved and washed my face and combed my hair. So again, forgive me.
All natural. That's what we
totally. Right off the elliptical. So truehealthinitiative.org, that's our website. Everything you need to know about the True Health Initiative. Sign up, get our newsletter, be a part of the movement, tell a friend. And then I'd also recommend that people visit Cuisinicity.com. Fabulous recipes, videos showing you how to make stuff. I mean, it's a really great resource. I have a website that's kind of a hub to everything I'm doing, and that's davidkatzmd.com. So if you just want to know more about me or my work, the research we do, various projects, we've got lots of stuff that we didn't talk about. My next book, The Truth About Food, coming out in October, davidkatzmd.com. So those 3 sites, and maybe you can post them somewhere when you launch this. That would be great. And again, Vicki, thank you for being part of this cause, because here too, in getting the word out, in informing and empowering people, only in unity do we have strength to get it done. So I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a pleasure talking to you today.
Likewise.
And thank you, everybody at home who is listening and watching Foods That Heal. So I put all the information in the website in the email that you receive with this video. So just have a look and get involved. So on that note, I wish you a wonderful, healthy day, and I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.